Okay, so this is video number 1 with the introduction for Adobe After Effects. In this case it's the CS6 edition, but they're very similar. There might be a slight change in the coloring of the interface, or there would be a few different effects, but generally they work the same. This is the startup window. So when you start up, you typically get a list of recent projects you've been working on. You can open another one, you can create a new composition, help, and browse and bridge. Usually I just close this unless there's something I'm just working on I want to press here, so I'll just close this. And this is the interface. It can be arranged in many different ways. So the workspace can be laid out in different ways, but you can always reset to standard down here. So one thing you should notice that up here on the left, there's two panels on top of each other. They're both actually important. The first one on the left in this case is the project one. This is your assets. So this is where you'll find everything you're using in your composition. So you'll find pictures and sounds and videos and etc. And the effects controls is a panel that shows you whatever you're doing with the effects or filters, if you like, that you are applying. And they will be stacked here. We'll get back to that. On the right we have the preview area. And you have to be aware of which one of these tabs you're in. Usually you want to be in the composition one. Often people will look at this and can't figure out why it's not showing what they would think it should show, and that's typically because they've been double clicking some elements either in the project panel or down in the composition panel. So just check out that you're actually showing composition up here. That's the important part. But it can show footage as well, so you just show like one asset, one video, one picture, whatever. Beneath here we have like the real work area. This is the layer area. It's very wide, but you can see that there's some things that look similar to things in Photoshop, like mode, for instance. Essentially, After Effects works like Photoshop. So you layer things in the same way as you do in Photoshop, and you apply filters. In this case they're called effects, and they're more or less the same effects that you are used to in Photoshop. But the big difference is that you work on sequences or moving elements that change over time. So instead of each layer being one picture with transparency, it can be a video, it can be one picture moving around, it can be a text layer changing shape, it can also be static elements, of course. And then we have the timeline on the right that shows where we have our animation, keyframes or curves, depending on what we show. And it so shows the extents of the elements. So for instance, a video might be 3 seconds long, and then there's another video that's 2 seconds long, etc. One big difference and advantage in comparison to Photoshop is that work is almost always non-destructive. So when you apply an effect or filter, you can either do that from the effects menu. You can see many of the same words that you're used to from Photoshop. Some of this is additional plugins I installed. They can also be found over here. And there's a nice little search effect, so if I want something like a drop shadow, I can just write drop shadow, maybe drop shadow, there we go, and it's listed here, and I can then drag it on top of my layer I want to apply the drop shadow to. There's a lot of different panels here, so effects and presets is of course one of the very important ones. Brushes, if you are doing like painterly work. The preview panel here is for where you actually control playback, so you can press play and you can loop and you can do RAM playback. The info box up here shows you information about pixels, so you can see it shows where I am at the moment, but not any color, because I actually have nothing open. So it's actually a little funny. It will update here because we really don't know what it is we're working on. And on the bottom here, right now I have something called the tracker. We'll get back to that, but it is essentially a few different ways to match up things to existing moving data or moving images. And there's a paragraph, there's also a text box somewhere. If you need another panel than what you have here, you can go to the window and you can see you have all of these that you can open up. So character, for instance, so you get ability to choose what character you want, etc. Oh, anyway, let's get started. So you can start in different ways. You can start out creating a new composition. It can actually also be done on this button down here. In that case, you'll be asked to provide the information about what dimensions, etc. this has. The other option is to start importing media, and if you import media, then that media will you can see what the definitions of that media is. So if it's a video recording, it might be European PAL 25 FPS, it might be HD 1080p, something like that, and then you can use that to set up your composition so that you know that it matches. Just once. Okay, sorry. So let's take and import something. I have this these series of files. I just want another one. I maybe want a hand-to-hand thing. These were released by a site for competition. I must admit I can't quite remember the name of the site. But anyway, I can just drag these into the project area, and you can see it will import it. And it's listed over here. So when I click this, it will say the name of the file. It will tell me the dimensions. In this case, it's a 720p HD format, a small HD. The frame rate is 23.973 FPS, and it's millions of colors. It's in what's called pre-multiplied. And it's a PNG encoding of the QuickTime file. So that is one way to generate something. So if I take this file and drag it onto my composition icon down here, you can see that my something weird happened there. There we go. It creates a composition here, and that composition will get the same dimension. So the size dimensions, and it will also get the same duration and the same frame rate. Just zoom out here. In this case, we have a little sequence with Jean-Claude Van Damme doing some fight work. It's not important what this is. The funny thing about this is this sequence is actually keyed. We just turn on the well-known checkered background. You can see that this video file contains transparency information or opacity. This is usually called an alpha channel. So an alpha channel is a channel that is grayscale from black to white. Wherever it's black, the image is transparent. Wherever it's white, the image is opaque. And then of course there's an area where there's a transition, and that is semi-transparent, and that will frequently be seen in if you have semi-transparent garment or hair areas, etc. And you can see here there's this series of little buttons below the viewer, and one of the things we can do is change what we're looking at. So now we have one layer here. I'll add another layer, so I'll go to layer, new, and I will create a solid layer, and it's intelligent enough to suggest that I will get a solid layer of the same dimensions as the composition I'm currently working on. And I can pick a background color, so this is darkish blue, that's fine, I'll just grab that. And you can see that suddenly I get my composition replaced by this this layer, so I can just reorder them exactly like in Photoshop. So now we have Jean-Claude Van Damme in front of the layer, there we go, and I can press play up here and it will play back. You can see that it's not quite doing the real-time playback. It has like just below 20 in frame rate. So if you need it to play back in real time, you can use what's called a RAM preview. It will cache everything.
I'm sorry, man.
And you will note that it will also enable audio for the track. So a lot of people will ask that when they play this, why there's no audio, and that is essentially because it's not running real time, so the audio would sound dreadful. Or at least it's not guaranteed to be real time. So if you want audio, you'll do a RAM preview, or if you need to scrub your timeline, you will hold the control key. And then you can scrub to the sound area you want. So without the control key, with the control key. Okay, let's take a look at the layer area. And now I've turned on most things here. So if you click some empty area here, you can see you get this thing called columns, and you can turn things on. I usually hold modes and switches and parent on because I like it, but you will probably have something that looks more like this when you start up. But I'll just turn on modes. Modes will give you the usual Photoshop ability of how you blend a layer. So you can do things like a screen, or you can do overlay, or you can do burn or multiply, etc. So that is nice to have. There's also this thing called track mats. We'll get back to that, but the thing with track mats is that you can have a layer that is typically something that is drawn or extracted from a video clip that will create a black to white grayscale or different color that will be used for masking the layer beneath. That might not make sense, but it will later. Then there's different switches here. So for computer generated layers like solids or shape layers, etc., you have this little continuously regenerate or rasterize. So if you turn that on, it will re-rasterize every time. So for instance, and where this is important is if you draw something in a vector layer, for instance, you draw a shape of some sort. If you zoom into that, that will get pixelated because it's made at 720p. But if you turn on the rasterizer, it will continuously rasterize it so that it will keep its shape. Just a sec. So it will continuously rasterize it so that it will keep its nice and crisp line. Then we have the blending options here. So it's the quality. So it's the worst and it's the best. So this is how well it will annualize, etc. When it's drawing things. Then there's effects. We can turn them off if we had anything. We don't. Then there's the frame blending. If we change the frame rate of a layer, it can calculate in between frames in different ways. Motion blur. We can turn on motion blur for layers. So if we have something, typically typography flying around, we want motion blur on that for it to look nice when it's animated. We can activate adjustment layers, and we can make it a 3D layer. That is actually quite neat. We can create three-dimensional text and make it fly around and things like that. Then we have the parenting option. So if we have layers on top of each other, these layers can be animated. They can be moved around like this. And if I just go back and untwirl this, so just click the little triangle here, you can see that there's different things. This thing has transform and audio. So audio will have a waveform. So you can see the waveform here. Just collapse that again. Transform. So you can see if I move this, you can see that the position element here will change. So what we can do is with the parenting, if I parent my dark blue solid to my JCVD human shield, I can do that either by selecting it in this drop down list, or I can use this. This was actually this reminds me of an old web program by Adobe. But you can drag this and then let go, and it will grab that layer. So now if I grab the background layer and move that around, oh sorry, I should leave that. It is the foreground layer I should move. There we go. Come on. There we go. So when I move that, you can see they move together because they are parented together. And if I turn this off, then it moves on its own. I can right click this and go transform, center in view, and same thing here, transform, center in view, and then it's back in place. We can then add an effect to our foreground layer. Actually, let's do it to the background layer. We will make no. Let's start out by doing a drop shadow on foreground layer just for fun. So I'll drop this on the foreground layer. I can also drop it here, but I always feel it's when they're the same size, I'm uneasy about what layer I'm dropping it on. So I usually drop it on the layer list over here. So I drop it there. And you can see immediately I get this effect control up in my left corner. If I untwirl this layer again, you can see I suddenly have an effects rollout here, and I have the same information as up here, but in a less nice presentation. So let's just make this. So you see now I get my background shadow. I can change the softness of this shadow. I can make it more dark, like so, and this will play back right away, like so, and I can go in and I can change the direction. So you can see this is the idea of this non-destructive layer or filtering effect, where you can just go back and change it at some point that you want something different. Let's make the background a gradient instead. So I'll just go in here and I will write ramp. Yeah, and I will take the ramp and drop it onto my background layer, and you can see that this will create a black to white. So I'll make this a bluish one, and then make this a dark bluish one, something like that. Okay. Of course, I can do a lot of other things. You can see there's 3D channel audio effects. You can actually do some audio editing in here, although I would not suggest that you do the majority of your work here. Blur and sharpen filters, different types. Channel control, digital color correction. This is very interesting. We'll get back to that. This is something I installed. Distortions, effects like warping and etc. Expression controls generate. Can generate different kind of things. For instance, strokes or scribbles, etc. That very good as well. Keying, very important. Especially the key light key is very good. This received an Oscar at some point for its contribution to the film industry, so this is really professional grade. Noise and grain, stuff that are not really used anymore. Perspective, again something I installed. Simulation, you can do different types of particle effects, although if you want to do the really nice particle effects, you should get something called track code. I have this in a demo version installed here. So stylize effects, do different things like embossing, cartoon look, etc. Synthetic aperture is a full interface color correction application that runs on top of After Effects. Different text effects, so you can do numbers and time code. Time, this is some of these things, or a lot of these are for changing the duration of a clip, so either speeding it up or slowing it down in different ways. Transitions, so we can do different type of wipes. You know these if you've been working with video. And then there's the thing called utility at the bottom, where we can do different things, use HDR files, etc. So I'll just add a new layer in this case. This time it'll be a text layer. So I'll go click the text tool on the top here, and I'll just go. I don't know. What should this be? Mortal Kombat. And this works much like all other text tools, so let's use it here. I need my text tool here, so I can just use this little slider because I knew I had the character in here, and I can change the typeface. Just go, yeah, this is nice. No, it's too thin. Maybe we should try an Harry Potter one. Well, it's not really that important. I'll just grab something simple. There we go. A little bolder. That's too good. I'll just go with this. Change the size. Change the color. Make this this orange. So now I have my text layer on top, and of course I can do things like adding drop shadow to this. And you can see here this time, now I know that I'm dropping it on the right thing, so I'll just do it like that. Change the direction a little bit, make it something like that. So we can just add this layer on top. If I want to, I can just show the track matte here. So if I go and take this track matte and set it to the alpha of the Mortal Kombat layer, you can see that will cut out the background element using the foreground element. Use the inverted one. So I can just, so this, if I move the text layer around, you can see that it will cut a hole in it. So that's the idea with the track matte. Let's turn this off. And then when I use a layer as a track matte, it'll get invisible because it's just, After Effects assumes that you just want to use it as like in a matte layer. So we have this. If I want to animate this, I can actually do something simple like fading in Mr. Van Damme. So I'll find a time. For instance, here I want him faded in there. So if I untwirl his layer and untwirl transform, there's this opacity thing on the bottom. And the way you animate things in After Effects is that you click this little stopwatch, and once you click that, that attribute is animated, and it will be auto animated. So you can see it creates a little diamond thing here. And then if I go to the beginning, I want this to be transparent here, so I'll just turn this down. And you can see it creates a new diamond. I shouldn't click this stopwatch again, because if I do that, I will turn off the animation. I'll actually delete it. So if I turn it on, it's all gone. So remember to do undo if that's what happens. So you can see now he fades in. Very nice. and then we want him to do his stuff, and then around here I want the Mortal Kombat thing to come in. And one of the very unique things about After Effects is the way that it can work with text. So I'll just grab the text layer, and I'll go to animation and then go browse presets. This will open up Bridge, and in Bridge I will get, let's see, yep, I get this, it just looks a little funny. I think it's because of the sizing thing here. Yeah. So there's one of them called text. So I just go and click that, and you can see there's different text effects. There's one called animate in, so I'll try that. And in there's different types. So if I click this central spiral, there we go, and you can see I get a preview of what that does. There's a decoder thing. You can see it like changes the letters, fade up, drop in, fade up words, fly in from the bottom, fly in with a twist. Yeah, this might work. Yeah, we'll grab this one. So I'll just double click this, and what will happen is that this will get applied to my text layer at the frame where I'm located. So it'll actually animate from this frame on. If that was not what you wanted, then you can untwirl your layer, and you can see there's these grayed out dots here. They show where the animation is. So I just need to keep on twirling where they are located. And that is in the range selector. So you can see the range selector is located here around 5 seconds, and then the final part is around 7 seconds. So if I move this back, the animation will happen quicker. So you can see it'll just go like whoop, and done. What is really happening? This is one of the very powerful ways to do things. So something like the decoder I showed you can be quite tricky to do in other software, but it's really just very simple to do in After Effects. What I did in Bridge was I selected from a series of presets, and these presets are set up to control text, and there's a quite powerful animation method here. You can see I can click on the animate, so I can add animation, add position animation, scale animation, screw animation, rotation, opacity, etc. And that will create an animator, and this animator animates opacity in this case, as you can see, and the opacity animates from 0 to 100. The way it works is that we have a range selector, and this range selector goes from 0% to 100%. So in beginning 0% will be changed, and in the end 100% will be changed. And you can see that the end will be 100, and the offset is 0. So if I push the offset, it will push them in either direction. So the end will be 100. So if I turn this down to 0, it will actually be inverted, so it will be pushing them out. So if you have to do these from the bottom up, it can be tricky until you learn the idea of it all. But the thing is that this range selector is used on percentage here. And it is at the moment it's actually randomizing. It's using characters excluding spaces, so this is including spaces. It can use words, so it will blend up words. It can take complete lines, so if you have multi-line text layer, it will blend these, and etc. And we can just, like, you can see randomize order is on, so if I turn that off, it'll just take the text from the end and just put it on. So if you want like a typewriter effect, then that's very easy to do. I can animate on top of this, so I can add a property like position. So that is also animated now. So if I change the direction of the letters like so, then they should drop in from the top at the same time. So you can see they drop in from the top. And again, how did I know that's the way to do it? Well, you learn that that's the way to do it. So that is more or less our basics. One thing though, sometimes you want to make things very advanced. So what you can actually do is something called a pre-composition. So I can select these two layers and I can pre-compose those. So I just go in here and I go pre-compose, and what this will do is it will create a new composition. So if I double click this, and this composition is essentially those two layers, and then I have my original composition, that is that composition on top of the original background layer. Now in this case it doesn't really make any sense, but if you have really deep composition trees, then this can make sense. So if you have a foreground element that you're keying out and you're doing all kind of stuff to it, then pre-compose that so that your list will still be something that you can look at and understand. If it's just like 100 of layers and you have no idea what's going on anywhere, then you need to pre-compose parts of that and name them. When you need to name them, you just press enter, and then you can name them something. My pre-comp, enter, like so, and then that will be the name. Okay, so for now the final thing we want to do is to generate a video from this, and the way I do that is I select the composition I want to render, go to composition and go add to render queue. This will switch to the render queue down here, and you can see what composition it is I'm doing. There's two things that are very important here: the output module and the name. So I'll start with the output module. I'll just click this little orange link thing, and I want this to generate an H.264 file. That will be an MP4 file. I can change the format options in here. So variable bitrate, 1 pass, good. My target bitrate is 5 megabits, that's fine. Maximum is 20, so if there's a lot of stuff going on, it can use 20 megabit. That's fine. So I'll just go OK. This seems fine as well, but my audio is turned off. And you can also see it's rendering in the same size as the input. So here, turn on audio, and you can also choose what you want here, but usually this is set up to, at least for the MP4 formats, set up to AAC. You might change the bitrate if you like, but this will work fine. So I click OK, and then I need to select where I want this output. So I want this on my desktop, and this will be, it'll just be JCVD, you can see it. Okay, and then I'll hit render, and it will start rendering, and when it gets to the end it will make an audible noise, so that if you have a long render you'll know that it's done. There we go, and I'll just find that in a second. Yeah, I put this on my desktop, so it's here. So if I double click that, it'll open up in VLC.
Sorry, man. Sorry, man.
So there we go. That is the basic introduction to After Effects. How to get started doing things. I'll be back in video 2 with a little more details on how to do kinetic topography. Ooh.